Hello and welcome to the AfterBurners Podcast. I am your host, Samuel Oni, and this is episode 17, the Austrian GP review. With me is Wes Spearman. Wes, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Shame we are. Well, you say Austrian GP, but that's this weekend. But Styrian Grand Prix. Well, let's hope the Austrian
Oh,
GP
yeah.
is better because my God, what a snooze fest it was on Sunday. Bloody hell! I mean, who'd have thought that the Styrian Grand Prix or the Austrian Red Bull Ring, whatever it is, would be more boring than the French Grand Prix? It was just a complete role reversal. And wow, do you want it? Let's get into it, I suppose.
Yeah, well, there's only one place to start, and that's to start with the race winner. The race winner being the Flying Dutchman, Red Bull's Max Verstappen. I mean, I've been so impressed with Max Verstappen. He's been nothing but exciting, aggressive, and this battle with Hamilton, well, it's definitely gonna go on throughout the course of the season, and we're only in round 8. But what a race! What a race!
Yeah, just dominant from Verstappen, winning by 35 seconds in the end. And
Yep.
I mean, even if Hamilton didn't have the pit stop on the penultimate lap, third from last lap, then he would have still won the race by about 8 or 9 seconds. That's just how dominant Verstappen was. He got a good start off the line, from what I remember, and then led into turn one. And then from there on, it was just a perfect drive from Verstappen, a good pit stop as well. For Verstappen, we'll get on to the other driver a bit later. But it was just a superb drive. It's definitely second win in a row. Red Bull's fourth in a row. The first time they've had 4 wins in a row since 2013.
Wow.
Since the Sebastian Vettel era. I know it's been 8 years since Red Bull have won 4 in a row, and to be honest, I can't see why they can't do it again next weekend at the same track. So I'm all for it. It's just refreshing to have a non-Mercedes driver and someone that isn't Lewis Hamilton leading the championship for the first time in 5 years since Rosberg won it, and for the first time in 8 years since a non-Mercedes driver has won the championship or led the championship. So it's just nice, really. I mean, I like Verstappen. I think he's a class driver, and if he doesn't win the championship this year, I think he's definitely going to win at least one in the future,
Yeah.
probably more. Let's face it.
This season.
It's just I know this season. Wow. We'll see. It's still early-ish
It is
in the
still
calendar,
early. Yeah.
but I mean, yeah. If he keeps going like this, then I don't see why he can be stopped. Really.
Where do you think uh the the championship will be decided? As in, at what race throughout
Mm.
the season do you think, okay, we've had this many races, this is the race where it all comes down to it? This is the
Mm.
race where Verstappen wins it or Hamilton wins it. Where do you think that will be?
Um, I think we've got to wait till the summer break first.
Okay.
So after sort of Silverstone and Hungary, sort of the back end of July, which to be fair isn't really that long. It's only a month away until we get to the back end of July, because when was it? Was it 2017 where Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel were seriously challenging Hamilton, and it was only after the summer break when they got to Spa when things sort of flipped back over, and all of a sudden Ferrari weren't doing as good, and Mercedes rose to the forefront again. I think that'll be uh, not necessarily a turning point, but when we get to the summer break, I think we'll have a much clearer idea of where things are going to pan out for the rest of the season, or how the season is going to pan out with the last. When it's still quite a few races though after the summer break, it's like 10 races or something.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I mean, I think the back end of the 6 tracks like Spa and Yas Marina, probably Jeddah as well, will probably suit Mercedes a bit more than Red Bull.
Mm.
I think, but I mean, we just got to have to wait and see. But I think when we get to the summer break, so another, how many races down are we now? Eight races
8.
down. So I reckon over the course of the next 5 or 6 races, I think we'll see if well, it's a case of if Verstappen wins the next couple, then I think Mercedes will be like panic stations a little bit. But if Hamilton wins the next one in Austria, then I think we're going to have a serious championship battle on our hands,
Yeah.
and I can't wait for that. Personally, it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah. Or even if that were to happen, and Hamilton did win in Austria next weekend, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but could it be round 15 where we go to Sochi in Russia that, well, because by the time we get to Russia, it would almost be, what, halfway through? And maybe there it could be, okay, it's crunch time. Verstappen might win it. Hamilton might win it. So we just don't know.
Yeah, it is going to be very close. I think Mercedes have a good chance at Sochi. I think, especially Bottas, it's a track that Bottas favours quite a bit. He got his first win there, and he's got about, I think, another 2, maybe 3 wins at Sochi as well. But then again, if Hamilton's not winning that race, if he's not getting the full 25 points, maybe 26 points if he gets fastest lap as well, then Verstappen will be up there. And I don't think, I mean, if Hamilton finishes second, Verstappen finishes third, or vice versa, then that's not going to make a huge difference to the championship, because the race win is at least 6 points more than second place, because usually second place gets the fastest lap anyway. So that is a big difference between the 18 points you get for finishing second and the 15 points you get for finishing third. It's twice as big a gap essentially, which is just massive, and that could make all the difference coming into the last few races of the season. But yeah, let's just see how it pans out. I think wait till the summer break.
Yeah.
Wait till we get to Silverstone, Hungary, then a couple of weeks off. Then we can sort of reevaluate and think, right, how are these next 10 races or so? Which tracks favour which drivers, which cars? And then we could have another look at it then and be like, right, is Verstappen going to be the first non-Mercedes driver to win in the turbo hybrid era? It could very well turn out that way, but we'll just have to wait and see.
All very exciting. And with that, 18 points. 18 points. 18 points is the number, is the marginal gap in the Drivers' Championship between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. That's why I said 18 is the magic number.
That's why you told me that at the start.
Yeah. Max Verstappen is currently on 156, 18 ahead of Hamilton with 131. So you can see that, well, remember Baku was 4 points.
I was just thinking that.
Baku was 4 points. So, and neither driver got points. I don't want to spend too long on it. But yeah, neither driver got points. And now Verstappen has opened up an 18-point lead. So it's all still to play for.
Big gap as well, because if you think about it, if, say, Hamilton wins the next 3 races on the trot and Verstappen finishes second in all of them, then Hamilton will only regain a lead of about 3 points. But he might not even do that, because if, as I say, Hamilton wins the next 3 and Verstappen comes second, but Verstappen gets fastest lap in those 3 races as well, then that'll knock off the 3-point deficit, and they'll be tied on however many points each. So it's just going to be great. I can't wait to see how
it's really exciting, isn't it?
The rest of the season turns out.
Right. Another thing that we should talk about, which I think is probably the biggest talking point, other than Max Verstappen's win, was Williams, George Russell, and Pierre Gasly, but in particular, George Russell in the Williams car. Because let me take you back to qualifying. We're not going in too deep. Anyway, George Russell in the Williams, he had a great qualifying. Eventually he would start 11th.
Yeah.
And then Yuki Tsunoda had a 3-place grid penalty, meaning that he the Japanese will start 11th, having qualified 8th, and then the race. Well, Wes, I'm sure you watched the highlights, but
Yeah,
it's
I did.
everybody watching it live. I was listening to it on the radio, but everyone was so gutted for George Russell, because he had reliability issues, I think. Yeah, let me get your thoughts.
I mean, just devastated for George Russell. Would have been his first points in a Williams. He got his first points in Mercedes last year, but yeah, he was running in 8th for a lot of the Grand Prix until it came into that sort of pit stop phase where I'm not quite sure what it was. I think it was an issue with the power unit.
Yeah.
Something to do with a fan somewhere, I think. For what I remember, it was Ben Edwards or Davey Coulthard saying on Channel 4 highlights. But yeah, it's just gutting, really, for a driver who, again, outdrove that Williams car. It's the second worst car on the grid, and he qualified halfway up the field and started P10 because of, as you mentioned, the grid penalties. But he was running in 8th for the first quarter, first third of the race.
That's
And I was
three
just winning.
points. That's
I know.
3 race points.
For Williams, a team that has struggled for so many years now, really. It's been 3 or 4 years since Williams were properly contending in the midfield. And those 3 points would have meant the world to them. I mean, they're probably my local team. They're just a half-hour drive down the road from me.
Yeah.
But it's just gutting, devastating, heartbreaking for not just Russell, but the whole of Williams.
The whole team, yeah.
The whole team, the family as well, Frank and Claire. It would have been their first points for a good few years, and yeah, just reliability again coming into play. Yeah, it's just, what does Russell have to do to get some good luck, to get some points? It's just, he's had such insane bad luck, whether it be with Mercedes at Sakir or just in Williams over the last few years where he should have got points but just hasn't because of bad luck, essentially reliability.
Why
It's
do you
just,
think?
yeah.
Why do you think? Okay, so I got a question for you. Why do you think car setups are different from others in a way that, the way the car is set up, that you know, I forgot my question now. What I'm trying to ask is, why do you think drivers in different cars have different outcomes come the race? Do you understand my
What do you mean
question?
by different outcomes?
So like,
Or
someone who,
different aims for the race?
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Like someone
Um,
who's in a, so take Williams for example. Their
hmm.
aim would be, I don't know, just to,
Finish top 15, I'd have thought, for
yeah,
Williams.
yeah,
Um, I think it depends on how quick the car is, what sort of drivers you got. Because the teams at the top, like your Mercedes, your Red Bulls, your Ferraris, will be aiming for race wins because they feel like they have the car and the drivers, the quality of drivers to achieve that. And actually, Red Bull and Mercedes have done that this year. Ferrari, again, is still on a little bit of a downward spiral, a little bit. They're on the way back up this year, I think, but they've got 2 class drivers in Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, who, to be fair, Charles Leclerc, I think he said he drove one of his best races last weekend, although he did cause that collision with Gasly on the first lap. But it's just a case of, I mean, McLaren, for example, they've been towards the back of the field over the last few years, and then over the last 2 or 3 years, they've been on the up again. So they're looking for podiums. Maybe if they're lucky, a race win. If we get some crazy race like Sakir last year, they might be able to steal a race win somewhere. But for teams like your Haas, your Williams, your Alfa Romeo, they're just looking to beat their rivals. They'll be looking at the cars, the drivers near them in qualifying in the race and think, right, how can we beat them? How can we get one up on them, if like? And then obviously the rivals will be doing the same. So everyone's fighting against each other. And in that sort of back end of the field, you got Raikkonen fighting Russell or something, Giovinazzi fighting Latifi. You got Schumacher fighting, I don't know,
Mazepin.
Latifi as well or something, or Mazepin, yeah. And it's just be like, where can those drivers, those cars get one up on their opposition, their rivals? That's what those teams towards the back end of the field will be aiming for. And to get points as well, because the more points you get, the more prize money you get as well. And the more prize money, the more they can develop their car
Yeah.
for next year. So that's what they're aiming for. That's really what I think anyway, what the drivers will be.
Yeah.
If they can't score points, what's the next best they can do? Who's their closest rival and how can they beat them? That's what they'll be aiming for.
Yeah, I agree. And Williams will be fighting very closely with Romeo to finish eighth
Eighth or
in the
ninth, yeah.
constructors, because let's be honest, Williams are the second worst
Yeah.
team of the
It's the second worst car.
second worst car, yeah. But yeah, I mean, George Russell,
Yeah.
I mean, how he went out was just so bad. And then just a little bit on Gasly. I think Gasly was your driver of the day.
Yeah, I had Gasly down for driver of the day, and then I just saw him crawling into the pits with basically his left rear suspension collapsed after contact with Charles Leclerc. I was just like, oh, okay, Gasly's not getting driver of the day then. And it was, as I say, Charles Leclerc getting driver of the day after causing that collision with Gasly. Did he cause another incident as well, Charles Leclerc? I can't remember. But either way, he had an insane recovery drive down from the bottom quarter of the field, really, like P15-ish, up to what, P6 in the end? P7, something like that.
P6, yeah.
And then Carlos Sainz as well, coming up from P12 into
P7,
top 5, top 6. Or was it P7? I can't quite remember now. For me, Carlos Sainz should have got driver of the day over Charles Leclerc. I think if you cause a collision, essentially cause a driver to retire, yes, he had a brilliant recovery drive, but let's face it, he shouldn't have needed to have that recovery drive if he didn't cause that collision with Gasly. Whereas Carlos Sainz started P12 and then made his way up, gained, as you say, at least 5 places from what I remember. So for me, Carlos Sainz rather should have got driver of the day, or Verstappen, because what a drive that was
of course,
to win the race and win by 35 seconds as well. It's just an incredible achievement. And even, as I say earlier, even without Hamilton's pit stop, he still would have won by 8-9 seconds, which is huge in Formula One. So for me, driver of the day should have been Carlos Sainz. Bit disappointed.
Yeah, same here. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed that Norris didn't get podium.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, very. Yeah. And speaking Red Bull as well, Perez and his pit stop, which wasn't very good. 4.8 seconds. That's almost 5 seconds.
A long time
in a pit stop. Normally, you'd see Red Bull on a given race pit stop 1.8.
Yeah, 1.8.
Less than 2 seconds. Less than 2 seconds normally, but it was a very long pit stop. And with that, the biggest beneficiary.
Beneficiary.
The biggest beneficiary was Mercedes Bottas. He was given to him on a plate, 3rd place.
Pretty much, yeah. It was unfortunate for Perez and Red Bull, as you say, 4.8 second pit stop. If they did get it down to even 2.8, then we could have had a serious battle for 3rd place going on, and that would have just made the race a little bit more exciting. Because as I said at the start, it was a complete snooze fest. It was boring. Watching the highlights, I spent more time on my phone rather than actually watching the race. It was that boring. But yeah, I mean, Mercedes had a good pit stop. I think it was about 2.4, something like that. It was under 3 seconds, anyway.
Yeah.
And we saw on the graphics in sort of track graphic where they show the car in the pit lane and the car on track where they are. We just saw Bottas round the corner in the pit stop just as Perez was coming into the braking zone, and he thought, well, that's that. Bottas P3, Perez P4.
Yeah.
And yeah, there has been this talk about pit stops being made longer by 0.2 seconds. You have to have 0.2 seconds from, I think it's when the wheels hit the floor to the car actually being released. Probably because Red Bull have had the fastest pit stop, so Mercedes perhaps wanted to say, oh yeah, these pit stops, they're getting a bit unsafe with how quick they are. Let's slow them down. But they didn't need to this weekend because Red Bull made a cock up themselves. I think it was the left rear tyre that wouldn't come off. But yeah, that slow pit stop just gave third place to Bottas, his first podium for a while, I think. He didn't get one in France, and he didn't get one in Baku either.
Did he get a podium in
I
Monaco?
can't remember. Did he get a podium in Monaco? I can't remember. I don't think so.
No, I don't.
No,
think
because there was a Ferrari.
Yeah.
There was a Ferrari on the podium in Monaco.
Oh yeah, Carlos Sainz. Yeah.
So yeah, that gives Bottas a bit more confidence, I suppose, going into next weekend. Because to be fair, he drove an all right race. To Bottas,
Yeah.
he was consistent. But I think if it wasn't for Red Bull and the slow pit stop with Perez, I don't think Bottas would have got a podium. I think Perez, he's got more experience than Bottas. I think he's a slightly better driver than Bottas. And I think he'd have been able to defend that third position, that last spot on the podium. So yeah, but third place gives obviously Mercedes more points, Bottas more points, and gives them more confidence going into the next weekend at the same track as well. So they'll be looking to push on from that, and we'll just see how they get on.
Yep. Speaking of next track, Austria. Well, we are still in Austria, but it's the same track but different name.
Same track, different name. Yeah.
Same track, different name. Now, Austria. When I think of Austria, only one driver comes to mind, really. That is Lando Norris. July.
Yeah, that's fair.
July 2020, I think.
Yeah.
Norris finished third. And there's something about McLaren. There's always been something about Norris, Ricciardo, McLaren, that like the way the fans, that such a great fan base. And well, last year, 2020, Norris got a podium, finishing third, and what a drive it was at the time, because I think he had the top two had already gone, Hamilton and Bottas. I think it was Hamilton, a race winner.
It was Charles Leclerc who won the first race last year. It was Charles Leclerc, and then Hamilton. I think Hamilton was running in second, but he had a 5-second penalty, and Norris was something like 6 seconds behind, or 7 seconds even, and he got the gap down to 4.8. So Hamilton dropped all the way down to fourth, I think, from what I remember. And then I can't remember who was second, actually, whether it was Bottas or Verstappen, and then Norris on third. But I remember Charles Leclerc winning, and I remember Lando Norris third. And I also remember they had these little robots to drive the trophies out to to the podium because of COVID, so no one could touch anything.
Yeah.
They had these sort of robot podium things to wheel out the trophies to first, second, and third. It was just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, 71 laps around the Red Bull Ring. My question is, can Norris get a podium?
I hope
in Austria.
I really hope he does. Could he have got a podium last weekend? I don't think so. Just because Mercedes and Red Bull just have that slightly better car. Well, not slightly, but they're just a better car than the McLaren. If we have a wet race, and fingers crossed that something is different this weekend, because if it's the same as last weekend, then please don't ever have a double header in Austria again, because it's been so boring last weekend. So hopefully something is changed up for this coming Sunday.
The rain.
The weather, yeah. If it's a wet race, and that could throw a few spanners into the works, we could see maybe Alfa Romeo get some decent points. We could see Alpine get some decent points as well. Williams, maybe. Fingers crossed, George Russell. A Norris podium is would be
Yeah.
pretty. He's got two this year already. He's finished every race in
Wow.
the points. I can't see why he can't do that again next weekend at the same track. Yeah, if he gets a podium, then brilliant.
So what do
That'll probably
your
make my
so
Sunday.
of course. So what do your predictions tell you?
Mm.
What does your crystal ball tell you?
Um,
Pole sitter, race
yeah.
winner, and driver of the day.
I think pole sitter. I think it will be Max Verstappen again.
Yeah.
I went Verstappen last week. I'll go Verstappen this week as well. Um, race winner though, will it be Hamilton this time, or will it
I
be
think
Verstappen again with another dominant performance?
now, before you answer that,
Ooh.
Hamilton's last win this season was No, it wasn't Portugal. Spain.
Yeah, Spain.
And when was Spain? Round
That's
4.
5 races ago. 5 races ago was Spain.
That's a
I
long
know it's a long time.
That's a long
It's
time.
a very long time.
Mercedes will need it more, don't you think? So
They
as
need it more.
you
Whether
were,
they'll get it, I'm not too sure. I genuinely don't know. I think Verstappen had such a good race last weekend. I think he's going to win it this weekend.
so who is
Again.
your race winner then?
My race winner is Max Verstappen. From pole to finish again, 2 weeks in a row, back to back. I'm back in Verstappen. With a Dutch army in Austria. I mean, we saw on turn one, usually it's packed full of orange, but obviously not as packed this year because of social distancing. But that turn one grandstand or the hairpin grandstand was just awash with Dutch flags and orange t-shirts. It was brilliant to see. And I think, I don't see why Verstappen can't win again next weekend, to be perfectly honest.
And your driver of the day?
I mean,
it's always a lottery with this one.
Just guess.
I think
it's tough.
Right. Do you think to get driver of the day, the lower in the grid you start, and the higher you win equals driver of the day? So if you, for example, you start on the grid in, let's say, 14th, and you finish 5th, that's 8 places.
That's a bloody good drive.
That's a good drive.
That's a pretty good drive.
So does that do drivers? Well, I'm not going to say drivers benefit, but drivers who start 14th, 15th, lower down the grid and finish higher up, does that mean they were more likely to get driver of the day than someone who starts 4th and finishes 2nd?
I think so. I think it depends on the car. Look at Carlos Sainz last weekend, for example. Started P12, got up to P7. He should have got driver of the day, but because Leclerc had this recovery drive from P14, P15 up to P6, P7, that's sort of the same sort of thing you're talking about there. So I think it does benefit drivers, sort of the midfield drivers, if you like your McLarens, Norris, Ricciardo, Ocon, Alonso, Vettel, Stroll, people like that. I think it benefits them slightly more. But on the other hand, if you have a completely dominant performance, like Verstappen could have won driver of the day last weekend as well. So he, as I say, he won the race by 35 seconds. That's not a small margin at all. I think if you have a good drive, consistent drive, sort of outdrive the car. I mean, Russell could have got driver of the day if he finished last weekend. Who knows? But I think it does benefit the slightly lower down drivers. And you know what? I think I'm going to back him again. I'm going to go Pierre Gasly, driver of the day again. Okay. Yeah, I don't think he can be as unlucky last weekend for Leclerc to take him out. Really, I think I'll go Gasly again for my driver of the day.
Yeah. Speaking of driver of the day, I've already got 2 drivers in my head that I can't quite decide between, but I'll come to a decision. Right, pole sitter. Hamilton, Lewis
Oh,
Hamilton. Yeah,
interesting.
I'm changing it. Lewis Hamilton. I think um, he needs to get himself going again.
Yeah, but
Um,
will he though? I mean, that's
that's
a
the
stupid question.
question.
He's a
Will he?
seven-time world champion, of course
And
he will.
uh, what Mercedes will be thinking about how they approach this race? Well, that's something. And to not win a race, well, for your last race to have been 5 races ago,
Yeah,
that's something. I mean, we all know what happened in Azerbaijan, but yeah, um, someone to set the tone for the race. I think Hamilton will be the pole sitter. Then
race winner,
race winner, Max Verstappen.
Verstappen. Ooh.
I think Max Verstappen will do it again.
Do you think Verstappen will overtake him at turn one and have another dominant race, or do you think it will be a scrap to the finish line?
Wait, ask me that again.
Do you think Verstappen will overtake Hamilton at turn one and then be as dominant he has been in the previous race, the Styrian Grand Prix, or do you think we'll have something like a Spain or a France where there's a bit of strategy involved and one of them will take the race win on the last few laps?
I think Hamilton will go clean on onto turn one. Then, as you said, I think we'll have a France Spain race where Hamilton will be leading most of the race, and then there will be a moment because Austria is a very short track.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
It's very short. I probably think it will be decided on the last turn or hairpin before the start finish line. And so Max Verstappen for race winner.
Driver of the day.
Driver of the day. Now, I know we've just discussed it, but I've got 2 in my mind. I'll just have to pick one. First was Carlos Sainz. I think he's had a decent race. He's had a decent season so far.
Mm-hmm.
He's been pretty impressive. He hasn't had a driver of the day so far this season, but he has had a podium. And then another one who has had a few driver of the day, achievements is Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin. He finished 10th last weekend, so I think he could have a decent race. So if I had to pick between the two, hopefully the car is on his side and he doesn't have any trouble, then Aston Martin's Sebastian Vettel for driver of the day. Yeah. So pole sitter, Lewis Hamilton, race winner, Max Verstappen, but it won't be as dominant.
Yeah.
But he'll still get the win. And then Sebastian Vettel is my driver of the day.
So you've gone Ham Vervet, I've gone Ver Gaz.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we finish off, I believe we still have 2 more subjects to talk on. So
yeah, a few more.
Take your pick. Which one do you want? What should we talk on first?
Let's start off with, I think, the one that was announced first out of these 3, which is Yas Marina, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Typically a boring race, quite a dull race, just because it is tricky to overtake. But what they've done is there's no more chicane on the run down into the tight hairpin before you go on that massive back straight. They've removed that, so it's just flat out and sort of down the hill, and you got that slight kink left. But instead of having that chicane, it's just flat out. And then instead of the slight sort of second gear, slow speed hairpin, they've made it sort of less tight, for lack of a better phrase. And I think they're banking it as well. So similar to Zandvoort, where the track is sort of at an angle, if you like, and
almost like NASCAR speedway thing,
yeah,
or like
a bit like a
motorbikes.
NASCAR track, yeah. So I think they're doing that not just at that point on the old hairpin, but also after the second DRS zone. So after you have the back straight, you've got the sort of 2-3 fairly quick corners in succession. Then you flat out until another left-hander, or was it another chicane sort of thing, another tight squealy section. And again, I think they're removing that section after the second DRS zone and having another banked left-hander as well. So yeah, turn 11 to 14 replaced by a back turn. On just before you get to the back straight, there's no chicane. It's just a normal left-hander. And they've also opened up turns 17 to 20 slightly, which is after that. I think there's the triple right-hander, and then you have a left and then another left just under the hotel.
Yeah.
I think they're widening that slightly to try and obviously give cars more opportunity to overtake. And whether they'll make any difference, I'm not sure. But I think if it makes the track less dull, if it makes the racing less dull than it has been, then why not? Let's give it a go. The racing hasn't been impressive there. The only reason why it's on the calendar and is the finale is because of money.
Yeah.
So if something can be done to try and improve the racing, then why not? Let's give it a go. If it doesn't work, then we go back to how it was before. But why not? Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, that's pretty much about it. And Abu Dhabi is in December, December 10 to December 12, round 23, the race finale, where somebody is going to be crowned world champion. Whether it will be a first for Max Verstappen or an 8th for Lewis Hamilton, who knows? And just lastly, Russia. The Russian GP will be moved from Sochi to the autodrome. I can't remember the name.
It's
Well,
the
I know the name, but I
It's
can't.
the Sochi
Yeah,
Autodrome, and they're going to move it to St Petersburg. Whether
yeah.
it will be a street circuit, I think it will be. Actually, I haven't really read too much on it, but let's have a look. The 4.086 kilometer circuit based near St Petersburg, and its necessary Grade 1 license last year. So I don't think it is a street circuit. Looking at that, which I think is good. I don't think F1 needs to race on street circuits. They've got enough street circuits on the calendar, especially with a new
Enough.
addition in Jeddah this year.
Oh,
Yeah, another track. I mean, again, Sochi was another one that produced quite dull races. Let's be honest. So again, move it to a new track. Let's see how it goes. It's not on the calendar till 2023. I
yeah,
don't think so. Another couple of years of Sochi, and then we go to a new track in Russia. Which, I mean, I'm not too fussed. I've not really been a fan of the Russian GP. As I say, Sochi has been quite boring.
yeah.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. Yeah, just one more thing before we do end up is back in April, Turkey dropped out, and then we had this triple head that we're having now with France,
Oh,
Styria, and Austria,
yes.
and now Singapore has dropped out because COVID reasons.
Oh,
And now
yes.
Turkey is back again from the 1st to the 3rd of October. I think that's brilliant. Turkey produced a stunning race last year. Whether it will be the same, whether we'll have it pouring with rain on new asphalt and the cars will be slipping around all over the place, probably not this year. But yeah, I mean, it's a good circuit, Turkey. From what I've raced on it on F1 2011, it's a brilliant circuit to drive around
Yeah,
on the game. And I think the drivers like it as well. I think it's one of the drivers' favourites. I mean, you have that turn 8, the sort of 4 apex left-hander, flat out pretty much. It's a good circuit, and I look forward to seeing F1 race there again.
yeah, yeah. And just lastly, before we finish off, speaking of F1 calendars, maybe I just had an idea. I've been thinking about it for the last week or couple of weeks ago, that in future episodes, I want it to kind of be interactive. Maybe creating your own F1 calendar. Now, whether it's 21 races or 23 races, you don't know. Maybe F1, of course, F1 will decide the calendar. You know, you just create your own calendar. Where would you want to
Yeah.
race?
Where do you want to race? So it could be like, it'll be the tracks that we have now. Pick as many of those
Yeah.
as you want. As you say, it can be as many lengths as you want. But if you want to include, say, a Watkins Glen in the USA or a Brands Hatch or
Yep.
Imola, Mugello, anywhere.
Of course.
Is it Calmiria in South Africa?
Oh yeah.
Kialmi, that's the one.
That hasn't been
Kialmi
on the
in
race
South
for
Africa.
over
No,
30 years,
yeah,
I
a long,
think.
long time since we've had a
Long
race in
time.
Africa. So any of those tracks, let us see what you come up with. As many races as you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. What tracks would you like to race at? Is the question.
Are you asking me or was that rhetorical?
Well, that was rhetorical. That was to the
Oh,
audience.
yeah, of course, yeah. So yeah, one for the future episode. So I believe we've come to the end of episode 17. So this has been the AfterBurners podcast, with the Styrian review and preview in Austria. And this weekend is part 2 of
Austria
Austria.
Part 2.
Austria part 2. And who knows? Hamilton, Verstappen, race win. Well, this has been episode 17. I've been your host, Samuel Oni, and it's a goodbye from me. Bye-bye. And it's goodbye from Wes.
Bye-bye.
And hope you have a lovely week. England playing tonight. So let's get behind
They're
the
gonna
three
lose.
lions.
They're gonna lose.
Oh gosh, Wes. And yeah, hope you enjoy the Grand Prix this weekend in Austria. Bye-bye.